So I'll say as a young, socially oriented entrepreneur who does want to pay attention to the needs of the vulnerable, doing it through this consultancy, right? What is something that you are worried about? Because I think when you look at press releases and all that, it can look like this is like cool, this is fun, this is like, oh, look at the young people doing stuff. But let's take a look at what's beneath your rug.
Right.
Right? So your book is called Let's Take a Look Beneath the Rug of the Social Sector. But let's look at what's beneath the rug for the young entrepreneur who really wants to be purpose-driven. What is one thing that you are definitely worried about?
I think for me, the struggle I face is loneliness. Yeah, that and not necessarily in the sense of isolation, but in the sense of just having not enough people to work with.
Do you mean team or do you mean peers? What do you mean?
In every sense of the word.
Okay.
So like whether is it having enough staff members, having enough people who are willing to procure our services. That's something that I constantly worry for because I believe that if I cannot put something that's valuable to you, then my business has no relevance. And I cannot just sit and say nobody appreciates social enterprises because I'll be the very thing, that I fear. So I think that is something that I wrestle quite deeply with.
What do you do to make sure you are not that lonely on this journey?
In the last 2 years, I think I've been given a measure of grace.
Okay.
Yeah. So my staff, literally, I always like to tell people that they fell from the sky. Like there's just no way I could have hired because I didn't write a job description. I didn't send out any, notice. A lot of them came because they heard about the work and they were passionate and they were willing to put skin, in the game to jump on board with me, for a trial.
That's your staff though. And I want to explain a bit about why I want to dwell on this theme. So it's not just socially oriented entrepreneurs, but I think the experience of the young entrepreneur, the psychological or the emotional experience of being a young entrepreneur, I think hasn't been well appreciated in Singapore. I remember in my, late 30s, there was an article that came out which said that many people look at the entrepreneur and think, wow, look at the guy balancing on a tiger. He's amazing. He's so courageous. Right? I wish I could balance on a tiger too.
Yep.
And the article said nobody is seeing that what the guy on a tiger is really thinking is, what am I doing on a tiger?
Yep.
And how do I stop the tiger from eating me up?
Right.
And when I saw that, I can resonate with that because nobody thinks of success as the biggest problem that an entrepreneur will face. Failure is actually, it sucks, but failure is straightforward.
Exactly.
It failed. But if it succeeds and you start getting the opportunities in, actually the little cute kitten that you thought was so cute can become a tiger overnight.
Yeah.
And that tiger can eat you.
Yeah.
And I resonate with that because the enterprise that I started with co-founders at 25, and in your 20s, you don't really completely understand yourself, let alone your friends, right? Or the business that you started.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it succeeded too fast. The speed of its success was faster than the speed of our own personal development, leadership development, whatever you want to call it. And I think it was the loneliness comes from nobody can help you figure this out per se.
Yeah.
Right. I think now is slightly better because there's more awareness of that, especially of mental health. There's a lot of coaching and VCs and this whole mushroom of an industry around let's support the entrepreneur. But even then, I think it's still an issue. Yeah. And I'm wondering how that analogy sits with you. Is Solve N+1 a cute little kitten? Is it getting tigerish?
Right.
Like vibes.
Well, I don't think we are there yet. We have a lot to prove, to have a seat at the table. And having that like sobriety like is quite crucial for us, because even though we get recognized, we know that we're not close to what our goals are. And I practice this very actively with my team. If they feel like I'm not, in the right frame of mind, they get to call my BS on me. And I think that keeps me very grounded. Like if they catch me, just saying nonsense, that seems very fluffy, then they'll just call me out. And I think that dynamic is something I appreciate today.
Yes.
And I think, and of course, kudos to those who have, sort of been the frontier forerunners, right, in the social enterprise space. There's just it's so rich, the experience of learning. Whether is it just, watching the matters that you write about, seeing the way you lead your organization. I think that gives us a lot more material in the way we choose to design the organization, and being very conscientious about the authority that I have, right? And how do I build it mindfully in the way that I think represents what's on my heart. And sometimes that takes a lot of experimentation. So I deliberately give my team autonomy to decide. Even if it's their own project, I don't get to have a say. They have a say. They hear my advice or my opinions, but they get to lead it. And it's super scary, because it's vulnerable. It's you don't know how they're going to react. You don't know what you need to manage. But I think the trust earned that we have done so in the last 2 years have been very rewarding.
It reminds me of how in a lot of organizations, there's this intergenerational conflict right now. Like, why are the millennials like pushing back? Why are they asking for autonomy? And what I'm hoping for listeners to hear is the pushback or the questioning of the authority or calling you out on your BS, gently and kindly done, of course, right? But it's still going to sting. It's actually healthy for the organization. It's healthy for the founder. It's healthy for the leader. It's especially healthy for the entrepreneur, because I don't know, like in a weird way, I think it also helps with the loneliness. That means like you don't have to solve everything by yourself. You have like a group that wants to journey with you, that wants to solve it with you. And part of solving it and journeying is calling you out on your BS and saying like, Kenneth, I don't understand you right now. But I'm not sure I agree with that. And I'm encouraged that that you are trying to put that into your culture early.